Hello, and welcome back to another Artisfy Codecast. Today I'm really excited because, for one, it's really early in the morning, and I have a fresh brain up here to get started with this code. But also, yesterday I thought through the inputjs code, and I came up with some new ideas, and they're simple, and they make sense, and it makes syncing the data a lot simpler. And I'm surprised I hadn't thought of it earlier. So I'm going to go through that right now. Hopefully, it's going to make things a lot easier for us to understand in the long run about how this library is actually working. And then, yeah, and then we can start building it. So let's go over the to-do for today. So I have these 5 things. You'll notice down here I keep pushing up, like updating the actual code in Artisfy, and that's really mostly because I don't want to get distracted by Artisfy's code right now. I just kind of want to finish these libraries so that they're working, I have something, and I can just use them to build Artisfy. And yeah. So anyways, the 5 things I want to do are update the input-output example code. So that's going to be in the plug file. So this is, an HTML example of how the input-output syntax is going to work, and this is where my new ideas come in. I also want to change the syntax in the list of widgets based on this updated example code. Then I want to read through this new function called sync output data attribute values. And I didn't write this function out yet. I just specified what it's going to do kind of line by line. And this is also part of this new idea and this new example code. Then I want to quickly change the outputjs code to use some new syntax. And that shouldn't take very long, but it's just something that I think has been coming for a while, and I just want to get it out of the way because the input.js code is going to rely on the output.js code pretty heavily. And then write code for input component watcher. So this is the part I want to get to probably in the next 20 minutes. So in order to do that, let's quickly, or maybe not 20 minutes, but half an hour or something, let's quickly try to get through all this. Okay, so first of all, this is our original example code, and you can see here, there's 3 things I want you to notice. One is data I store. I'm going to change this to a new name. That's going to make a little bit more sense. That's only like 10% exciting. But let's see. We have 2 other things that I want to change here. So one is, you'll notice down here we have data I text and data I key. And so this tells the save button. When you click on the save button, it's going to climb up to the store, and then it's going to look for any data I text in this as children, and this is going to say, okay, I have a key. I want you to use my key for the data, and then I want you to grab the value from me. So that's interesting, right? And then this data I key, all it does is it specifies, the key we're going to use in the eventual object. Okay, so that all makes sense. Let's see this new syntax. So the main thing I realized is that when I'm syncing the data, actually, let me just go back real quick. So I want to sync the data from this input element up to this element, And then I also want to sync the data from this choice, which expresses itself up here, with this data iChoice attribute kind of controlling how that data is set here. And I want to sync that with this right here. And what I realized is that I don't really need the data I attributes as much as I thought. I can just use the data output attributes in order to represent where the data is and what it looks like. And I can just use the data input elements to control how the data is flowing in or being manipulated. So let's see what I mean here. So up here I didn't really change anything. I just changed the name of the data store, the data input store, to the data input sync, which kind of makes a little bit more sense to me, as far as what this element is actually doing. I still have the choice, syntax, and I still have, and then I added this. I added data output type of object, and this makes this element a full-fledged output element. All an output element needs is a type and a key with a value, and then the output library is going to be able to parse this and add an object that looks like this to the data that it's kind of compiling as it parses the DOM. So that's all I needed to do there in order to be able to run the outputjs main function, the main parse function on this element. I just needed to add this, and then we'll get this output, right? So that's going to allow us to sync back and forth, sync the code back and forth. Okay, a little bit easier, right? Because if we click the save button and we want to grab all the data from these elements and we want to add it to these elements, well, one thing we're going to want to do is get an object that looks like this, and then let's go down to the other example for the input element, and we'll see here I changed this completely. So now I have data O type. So again, that makes it along with a key, a full-fledged object that can be parsed by outputjs. And then I have the data output key text being equal to the current element's value. And so what that'll do is say this value is like, new title. It's going to give us text equals new title. And since the way this is organized and the way that outputjs works is even though this element is nested inside of this element, it's still going to merge the data. So we're going to end up with something up here that looks like this, and then this is just going to be merged into it. And if you're wondering, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would this be merged into it? It's a child element. Well, the reason this object's just merged into the object above it is because it doesn't have a key of its own. If it had a key, it does have a key, right? But it needs also a key for the object above it in order for it not to be merged. So you need, I think this is the syntax. You'd have data O key, and then you just have the name. So you'd have like, we'll just say example here. And then if you do that, then you can have this example key be equal to this object. And then it's not merged directly, it's going to be a child element, or a nested object, right? But what we really want here is just a flat object. So it's actually good in this case that we merge the data, even though they're children. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty much it. Oh, one other thing. I do want to change this syntax here. So it's just a very, very small change, but I want the selector and um, the location of the data to be separated by a space instead of for there to be parentheses. And I think it looks slightly nicer, but yeah, that's not a big deal. Okay, so that's it. So let's update our specification. No, we don't need to update our specification. Not really. But we do need to, I do want to update our list of widgets. So first we have sync. We're still going to have both of these because we're going to use them for choices. Yeah, so we can put this kind of separately, and it might even be worth it to kind of rename these things to make them be very separate from this stuff. And I don't know, maybe this is part of the input and then input library, and then this is part of like a data sync library. But for now, I'm just going to leave it because it's it's too much to think about. You know, I don't want to get the syntax perfect. I want to get it to a point where I feel comfortable using it and then try using it, you know, and then eventually I can improve it if it's working for me. But I don't want to get carried away with the details right now. Okay. So, and if you're curious, the way that this is going to be able to tell that it has to look inside of this element for the inner text is it's going to start with a period. And that's because all of the selectors I'm planning on using for this are going to be classes. And yeah, that's it. It's not going to be able to use IDs. It's not going to be able to say something like div. I'm going to enforce the idea that I have to use a class if it's a location. And so then this obviously can't start with a period, which might become an issue at some point, but hopefully not. Yeah, I don't see it ever becoming an issue, so I'm just gonna leave, just gonna accept that as it is. Okay, and let's just also go into like our duplicated code here where we have more thoughts about these things written down, and let's just update it here too so that we don't have to think about it later when we're like, oh, is this how it's supposed to be? Okay. Yeah, okay, and here's where I wrote out my thoughts actually for like why I'm switching to this new syntax. Okay. Cool. So we got that. What are we doing next? So we did this, read through this. Okay, and let's get rid of our original code there. Okay, so let's read through this function real quick. So based on this new syntax that we just went over in the example file, now all we're doing is syncing output data attributes. So I wrote this new function, or planned out this new function, sync output data attribute values, and I'd like to just read through it real quick. One, to see if it makes sense, and two, to just kind of catch you up. Okay, so we're going to parse all of the data-o- I guess it's going to be key dash attributes on element 1, and all of its children. Use this data to create a flat object. For example, text, example title, type is equal to feedback. Loop through each of the key names from this flat object and convert them to dash case. Create a selector string based on the key name. For example, data dash o dash key dash and then the dash case key name and then the closing bracket. So the opening bracket, the closing bracket, so that it's a selector. Search element 2 and its children for elements that match this attribute selector. Okay, so basically we're compiling, so far we're just compiling all of the data on element 1 and its children, and then we're looking through element 2 for any custom data attributes that match this assembled data. Okay. When the selector matches an element, get the value for this key name from the flat data object. Okay, so we're just going to get the value that corresponds to this element. And then we're going to overwrite the current value of this attribute in element 2 with the value from the object. That makes sense. And I could just say like with this value. Okay, so this is going to allow us to do two things, which we need to do yeah, I mean, it's going to allow us to sync the data from the trigger element onto the inline edit element, and it's going to allow us to sync it back. And that's it. That's awesome, right? Okay, so we read through that. Let's check that off. Quickly change the outputjs code. Okay, so this actually gives me a little bit of pause. That was me pausing. Because I don't want to ruin this code, but I'm going to risk it just because it's been a while since I updated this to the new syntax that I dreamed up with the, output. And it shouldn't be that hard. I think this is the same. Yeah, see, this is an example of a nested object. So if it has a key of its own, then it's going to attach that key as its key, and then its value is going to be the object. Otherwise, its value is going to be the object, and it's going to extend the parent data. So it's just like, going back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. So this code, I think, is fine. I think the only code that needs to change is over here. So actually, let's, okay, let's just search for data x. Okay, so we'll change these. And then let's go into here and search the same thing. Okay, nothing. And we got a few examples here of data x. And let's just find all and, oops, replace. Okay, good. Okay, so we get the attribute, and then we say, is parent data an object? Okay, yep. And right, because it can, yeah, so this is an example where it has its own key and it's nested, like I was just explaining, and it can only extend, it can only have its own key, oops, if its parent data is an object. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for it to have its own key. You can't, it doesn't make sense to add a key to a list, right? Okay, and then if the element type is a list, we're just going to return an empty array. Otherwise, we're going to get the data from the node. Okay, so this is actually where the core of the change comes in. And it's a pretty simple change that I want to make. So first of all, we're getting rid of this location key. Okay, and let's search for location. And we can see that yeah, we have some good stuff there. So we will save this here, just in case we need to refer back to it. And then we have this. Okay, so this is going to loop through all the attributes. It's going to see if they match the key prefix. If they do, we're going to get the key name. We're going to camel case the key name, and then we're going to add the camel case key name to the return object, which with a value equal to the attribute value. And we get the attribute value because when we're using this for each attribute helper function, it's going to also give us the attribute value. Okay, now the only thing we need to do here is before we do this, we just want a quick if here. And we just want to say, hey, if the attribute value starts with a dot, we're going to do something different. Okay, so let's look up a function that will help us do this. I think there's a starts with, but I'm not sure. I mean, I know we can use, string like that, right? I think we can, yeah, we can definitely do that. But I just want to see if there's like a more idiomatic way of doing it. Okay, so it looks like there is, and the browser compatibility is, of course, no Internet Explorer. But remember, we're going to use polyfill.io, right? So we're going to get that, we're going to get starts with. Where browsers and features starts with, yep. So it knows that it's, missing from these versions of IE and Edge and these versions of Chrome. So if the user loads up my page and requests the Polyfill.js library, and they're using one of these browsers, they're going to get the Polyfill, which is only 0.1 kilobytes. That's nice. I wish I wish I could get the code. I mean, I'm sure they have it here. Yeah, there we go. Oh, interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, I don't know. I'm not going to look for it. Actually, I do kind of want to look for it. Polyfill, okay. So this probably still exists, yep. And then we got poly, good, packages, library, polyfills, string. I'm just curious, just curious. Polyfill, there we go. Great. Oh man, this is super long. You know what? That I don't want to do that, I mean, not that I guess it matters that much, but like, so if I do, juice. Yeah, that's all I need. So this has support for it looks like regular expressions and a position, an optional position argument. What does the position argument do? Okay, the position of the string at which to begin searching. That's cool. Okay, yeah, but I don't need any of that stuff. So this is super simple, right? So all I want to know is, does this equal a dot? Okay, so I'm glad I looked that up. The fewer polyfills, the better. Okay, so if attribute value equals a dot, then we're going to set attribute value equal to get location key value, and we're going to pass in the attribute value. And that's it. We're just going to overwrite it right in place. That works for me. So, what do we got? Yeah, so we actually didn't end up needing any of this code. Get location key value. Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a lot of repeated code, actually. I shouldn't have had this. It should have already, yeah, it was a lot of repeated code. That's unfortunate. Okay, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to get the location key value. We're going to pass in the element to, ooh, okay, wait, how did I have the element? How did I have the element? Where's the element? Oh, the element's coming from up there. Okay, so I'll just pass in the element and the attribute value. And yeah, so the thing about this is I have a parse library that can parse space-separated arguments, but I'm super tempted. I'm like super tempted to just use a split on a space here. I don't know. It doesn't. It's not. It's not heavy to include the parse library, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem worth it. You know. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say. Okay, so first let's just, what are all the things we're going to do to this? Well, first we want to trim it. No, we want to trim it. And then, you know, I mean, it is nice to normalize it. And in that function, the it does normalize it, which is cool. And it would be nice to use things, yeah, okay. It would be nice to use things that I've built before and like consistently use them. So let's go. This is actually most of what was stopping me, is just having to like go into the folder and install it. So if I just want to see what it's called again. It's like parse data attributes. Okay, so npm install, and it's going to be up a level. And yeah, I totally forgot. How do I include this? Okay. I mean, I think it's just this then. Okay, so const. Yeah, it's annoying because also for some reason I think that all of the parsers should live inside of the same source code that allows us to create the parsers, which makes no sense at all. But I'm gonna stick with it for now because it's kind of convenient. Okay, so we're gonna it's really silly. I understand. It's super silly. Okay, so parse, what is it going to be parsing? Parsing, okay, let's start with this. What is it parsing? It's parsing data, oh, oh, this is not going to work. Oh, that's annoying. Ah, jeez, 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 jeez. Well, okay, so the reason it's not going to work is that I'm parsing a key that can have a different name. Like it's going to be like this, right? Name one, name two, example. It can be whatever. So there's no way to like, so I mean, what I would have to do is expose some of the like underlying code here. Oh man, what? And I'm just splitting it? I'm not even cleaning it up at all? What the heck? Yeah, I'm not even trimming it. I'm not trimming it. I'm not removing duplicate spaces. What the heck? Yeah, I should format spaces this thing. Okay. Well, I think one thing I can do is actually just export this format spaces from this. And then let's just do this. Because that shouldn't harm it. All it's doing is removing spaces from the end and replacing any like double spaces with single spaces. So it's actually making it more reliable. Okay, so yeah, that looks good. We're exporting format spaces. Now we're gonna say like format spaces. Um, what is this? Is this just export? Okay. Um, shoot, what am I doing? Import format spaces from parse data attributes, hopefully. Oops. Sorry, I like things working the first time, and so copying and pasting uh, helps with that. Okay, so now we have format spaces. So we're gonna take this, oops, we're gonna take this and assign it to format spaces and itself. Okay, so now we have a good starting point. And now let's just say like we're gonna get a selector, and I'm just gonna test. I've like hardly ever done array destructuring before, so I just want to like confirm, A, B. Yeah, okay. So we're going to get the selector, and we're going to get um, the type. It's going to be like the location type. And that's going to come from attribute value split. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now, so yeah, the first special case is um, So let's get the target element. And that's gonna, if the selector is equal to a dot, just a dot, that's gonna be the current element. Otherwise, it's gonna be element dot query selector and with the selector. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So now we have the target element, and what is this? Why am I trimming? Oh, because I'm getting the value. Right? I'm getting the value? Yeah, I'm getting, okay, so, sorry, for for a second I thought I was setting it. Okay, so we get the target element. Okay, so now the question, I guess, is, does this work? So if I have this, or let's get like a different element that actually has, yeah, okay, that's good. So if we just get the inner text, that works. Now, what happens if, okay, we have a search bar up there. Okay, so what happens if I do that? Uh, what is that? Why is that? Okay, so I guess, oh wait, that is it. Jeez, oh my goodness. I was, okay, yeah. Like testing on a JavaScript site is so stupid because I'm like, oh wait, this is, sorry, yeah, it was very confusing. So, where do we go? Let's go to Hacker News. Ycombinator.com. Because they have what we need, right? Yeah, they have a search bar and they have this thing. Okay, so we're going to do that and we can get the same thing using that. And then if we are here and we type in, you know, like some example ASD and we do value, we get that. And if we do that, we get that. Now, the problem is that it's not always going to be this easy. Like what about radio buttons? We can't just do this with radio buttons. But we're not implementing radio buttons right now. We're just implementing, I think, inner text and value and like source, right? Or like, I think href probably works too. Sorry, I don't know like native Java or like vanilla JavaScript super well, or but yeah, it's just right on there. Okay, cool. So all we're gonna do is just return the target element and then the location type, but let's call this something else. So like what does MDM call the href? Or wait, as attribute of the anchor type. So maybe just attribute, but let's see. Okay, the anchor element. What is an href to you? Yeah, I guess they're just all attributes. Okay, so yeah, it's just confusing, like passing in attribute value here and then calling this attribute. We could call this element attribute. That makes sense. And I guess I could trim it, right? But okay, so like what if I have an image? So let's go to like, I always forget the name of this stock image service, but it's the best one. Unsplash. Okay, so if I have an image here, and oh no, and I call source on it, it's of course going to give me the image back. But what if I have an, geez, that's annoying. Yeah, that's going to be impossible. I could have thought of a better example here. Okay, so, oh geez, that's annoying. I'm not going to do it here. Let's just go to Google. And we can actually just create an image on the page, right? We'll just edit this. Yeah, that's all we want. What happens if I call source on that? It's an empty string. So I don't know if we can rely on that, right? What is IE going to do? Are they going to return an empty string? I guess let's try it for now. Oh, geez, this is not great. I don't know. Ooh. I mean, we could check the type, and then if it's let like value equal this, and then we could say like type of element value equals string. Then we return element value trim. Else, so now the question is, do we fail silently and just like return an empty string, or do we like return null? I like the idea of failing silently. Because like it's the difference between a user clicking on something and it like potentially breaking, I don't know. It could like break something else, right? But then if it fails silently, at least like one part of it's going to work. But it's risky, you know? I would rather fail silently. If I'm like passing in something that doesn't, like an element attribute that doesn't make sense, I think I should just get back an empty string. Okay, so the attribute value, let's rename this. What is that going to be called? We could call it like location string. That makes sense, right? Cool. Okay, so this should work now. We have a test somewhere in here. Okay, so we got to open up our terminal. We're in here. We're gonna npm run dev. I think I changed this to dev. Cool. And now let's go to output. So yeah, we really didn't make it through this very quickly. Oh no, I forget where our tests for this are. Oh, it's not here. Yeah, I didn't ever transfer them from this. Oy, oy, oy. And I have a bunch of repeated code here. Okay, so, oh man, this is annoying. Okay, so, yeah, the really annoying part about this So we're just going to transfer this test into our data.js because we don't even have anything set up here as far as like like Webpack goes, and like we have the helpers.js library here, and like we don't have any. It's not like npm isn't set up or anything. I mean, it probably wouldn't take that long to set it up, but I would rather just go with the newer, smoother one. Okay, so we have this output code, which we haven't set up yet. And we want to, okay. This is annoying. I think this is most of what we're going to do today. And I actually want to sit down to do it. Okay. Yeah, web development is stressful sometimes because I feel like I have like 5 things on my mind right now, and it's hard to like keep it all straight. What was I in the middle of? Okay, so I just wrote this function. Okay, so we want to test. We want to test that parse DOM is still working. We have let's open up our test file. So we have this test file that currently, when we run it in the console, we get a bunch of pass tests. Now we haven't updated the code, so that's why they're all passing. So, oh wait, we're not actually importing anything, right? Because we decided, yeah, so I don't need, oh, we're doing format spaces. That's not really a big deal. I mean, I could replace that, right, just to see if it's working. But no, I'd rather have these tests set up, right? So let's have the tests working. So the first thing I want so I'm not exporting anything. Okay, so we could okay. Let's export things. Part is this gonna do? No, that's not gonna do what I want. And we're just exporting everything, even though it's probably we probably don't need everything. This is silly. Okay, so we got parse node, get data from node, and get location key value. Yeah, we probably don't need to export everything, but it's not like these are like, super private functions or whatever. Okay. And I think, yeah, we actually do need to export everything here. Okay, so we've got the export working. Let's rename this to outputjs, and we'll rename this to parse node, and we'll rename this to data object from elements. Okay, and then inside of outputjs, we're going to import. So what external functions are we using? This, and that's all. So we're going to import these two from, and we'll go in the same directory from data object from elements. Okay, and then this one relies on parse node. Yeah, and I think that's all it needs. So we'll import parse node from parse node. Okay, awesome. So that maybe that'll work. I don't know. I don't think we need any styles. Okay, so we're just gonna like import output, oh geez, outputjs. And there's one other thing I want to do, which is get the tests. So I have these tests here. I have tests color picker and I have tests. Okay. So I also want to import, and let's see, what did I name the other ones? So there was like, what else have I done here? Copy, switch. So, okay, so we'll just say like output test.js. And now we got to create this output test. It shouldn't live in the same file, in the same folder, but it will. Okay, so we'll paste that in there. And now, what do we got? So we have Webpack. It should output this to this file. So let's look, and it should do switch. Yeah, so it does do that. So all I need to do here in the output HTML is paste, I should have just left it. Okay, yeah, I'll just leave it and do that. Okay, and now all I need to do is get the HTML of the tests from here. And yeah, that's just all inside the body. It's a lot of code. We're using Lodash. I think we're using Lodash. And I'm using something from the helpers. I guess we'll see, right? So we're just gonna delete. Oh, well, I won't delete it here. There's no reason to. This is working code. Okay, so we'll grab all of this and we'll paste this in here. Huh, that's weird that it wasn't the right amount of indentation. Oops, no, just there. Oh, geez. Sublime froze, you know. Doing something weird. Oh, please. Why? Why? I guess it's probably parsing a lot of stuff. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so, oh, that's because I flattened that against that. Okay, so let's remove that. And let's try, we have Webpack running. Okay, error in output main. Cannot resolve output tests. Source. Okay, so if I go, oh yeah, okay. So this should be output. Woohoo! Okay, so now we got some. Okay, so in outputjs, let's close all this stuff. Now we'll close that too. Okay, so in outputjs, what is this thing? Okay, so it's not found here. I don't know. Maybe like that? Why should that be different? That's weird. Okay. I'm not sure why removing that default makes it work. That's very strange to me. Okay, so now let's just look real quick. Are we using underscore dot anywhere? Oh, I think it's in the tests. I think it's, yeah. Oh, geez. Okay, so Lodash, let's see what you got. Documentation is equal source. Wait, I don't want this. Well, what does it do? What does is equal do? Okay. I mean, it's just for the test, right? It doesn't really matter if I include it. I would just rather not have this as a dependency. I think I have some other function that does a deep comparison. I'm just trying to remember. Oh, I think it's in the parse data attributes code commented out. No, I think I removed the tests from here. Yeah, I did. I cleaned up this file. So it would be I don't even know. Okay, let's see, like, deep is equal. No. Huh? Okay, whatever. We'll just add Lodash. It doesn't matter. Oh, but it might not. I guess we'll install it, right? And then I guess I could just install it. No. Okay. I'm just trying to think, can I install it just for my dev environment? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to like be using this repository long term anyways. Okay. Um, okay. Import from, I think so. I think it might work. Oh, wait. Okay, I need to get this back too. Okay, so get data from root node is not defined. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Export default. And we can import get data from root node from output. Yeah, we got a bunch of failing tests. That's awesome. Okay, cool, awesome. So now, the good thing is that if we go back to our old tests, they're all working. So we know they're failing now, not for like any like crazy reason, but just because we changed the syntax. And it makes sense that they're all failing because we changed the syntax like for everything. So now if we go here, all we have to do is search for all of these datax types. So that's going to be actually a lot. So let's find all, and let's change it to data O. And actually, I even more want to search for any datax things. I want to change those all to data O. Okay, now let's go for our location. So actually, let's save now, and we should have mostly passing tests. Oh no. What does it say? Oh, for each attribute is not defined. Okay, so, oh, that's from the helpers. Okay, cool. So let's go into parse node, and let's do it. So we'll import, and I forget where this is located. We have, it should be in DOM utils, right? Yeah, I think we moved it here actually. So that's cool. Okay, so DOM utils for each attribute from DOM utils. And I so appreciate having these local libraries that are separate but connected, and like, oh, it's so nice. Eventually, I'll namespace these and I'll publish them on NPM, so it'll be something like that, which will make me feel more official, definitely. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're npm installing / DOM utils. This just feels so good, just to be able to do that. Of course, like npm is probably gonna in version 9.0 like break this functionality. But until then, I will enjoy it. Dash to camel case. Okay, I think this is a different library. I think it's the helpers library, which I think I renamed to something. Yep, string functions. Makes a lot more sense. Okay, so now we're going to import, I think it was dash to camel case from string functions. And we will npm install string functions. It is a little weird to me, to me that it takes so long. Awesome, we got a bunch of paths. Okay, awesome. Like to install a local module, I feel like it shouldn't take that long. Okay, so we have these tests. Let's see where location comes in. So in order to get this working, oh no. Okay, so I don't specify the argument here. And the question is, if I don't specify inner text here. The question is, do I want to have to specify inner text or do I want it to default to inner text? If I want it to default to inner text, well, then I have to change this. So I'm splitting. So if I split this and it's nothing, if the second argument is nothing, so let's actually do an example. So we have a string equal, or let's just do it our example. So this should give me an array with a string of just the dot in it, and it should just be a single item in the array. Wait, oops, I split on the dot. I split on the space. Okay, good, exactly what I expect. And then, yeah, what happens if I do this and then I say let a b equal that? Then a is going to equal the dot and b is going to be undefined. Okay, so that is fine. And then element attribute, we could just like default to something, right? So like let element attribute equal element attribute, or oh, we can't have the let there. Element attribute equals element attribute, or we could actually just default to it here. Inner text. Yeah, I think that's going to be the most common case, so I think it makes sense as a default. Okay, so that makes sense there. Let's keep searching. Yeah, so I've got a lot of just dots. I've got a couple selectors. Wait, I just want to make sure that I did this right. Yeah. Okay. I think that should work. So these are, oops, so these are all going to be inner texts. Yeah, because I think when I implemented this, it defaulted to inner text, but there are also no other options. Like you couldn't specify any other attributes for the element. Okay, so in order to fix these, all we should need to do is search for all of these data-o-location keys and do that. So now they're just regular keys. Well, let's see if it works. Oh my goodness. Oh, it didn't work. Cannot read property inner text of null. Huh. Okay, what's the element? Give me that element. Okay, so let's select. So the selector is this. Yeah, it's right. It doesn't have it in here. Okay, so let's search for class equal to timeline. What was it? Timeline underscore underscore item. And I have the primary and secondary here. Oh, I think for some of them, I don't have it. Yeah, when it's a payment, I neglect to add it. I think that's not going to be a problem in the final version of Artisfy, but for now, let's pretend. Let's like work with this worst case, right? Um, so target element might not be defined, in which case we don't want to do this. So we could just say like, if target element, then do this. Um, yeah. Well, I kind of want to default to an empty string either way. I'm just doing like some kind of, so I have like some operators here, and so it makes it, it's making it a little bit difficult. Right, so I could do this, right? And then if there's no target element, element value is not going to be equal to string, so we're going to default to this. But this code, to me, doesn't read very well. It's kind of annoying to read. It's not super bad. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it. Pass, 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 pass. Awesome. Cool. That's awesome. That's super, super cool. I think we did go up in time though. Okay, so it's hovering from like 32 to like 44. I guess 32, yeah, 32 to 44. And then this one, okay, got a 49 in there. I think I saw a 48 in the previous one. I think this one might be slightly faster, which makes sense because, yeah, this one is faster. But it makes sense because we were splitting out the location key attribute. So it was only doing this. Well, what was it? I don't know why it should be that much faster. We're getting the attribute value either way. The only extra thing we're doing is, yeah, is this, right? So it shouldn't be that much faster actually, in my opinion. Okay, well, that's all. That's all I have time for today. We reorganized the outputjs code to the new syntax. Um, we didn't get very far in our inputjs code, but I am going to do that tonight in a new codecast. I guess we could work on it for like a minute. Um, let's see. So we have this. Let's actually commit to GitHub what we have so far. So we changed a lot of stuff here. Okay. Input, output, JS libs. So the first thing we did is changed data O key syntax. Renamed data I store to data I sync. Using, or yeah, okay, we don't have to say anything about that. Incorporated, this was a really good, big one, big move. Output JS tests. We can say like renamed to okay. Yeah, this was huge, just like organizing this code a little bit better. Very, very, very nice. Yeah, and I can put some exclamations after that too. And for the last thing, we'll say like allowing location keys to get data from any element attribute that's directly on the element. Awesome. Okay, so let's commit that, push that out. Were there any other files, any other things I edited today? Like, did I change inputjs? Do I even have inputjs here? Well, let's see. Parse data attributes. Oh, okay. exporting format spaces, improved simple parser. So I guess this is nice that it tells me what I've changed. I did this a while ago. So like added a timing function and more bundles to a complex test. Okay, so yeah, it concerns me a little bit that I haven't added inputjs. Okay, so yeah, we've only just basically like started planning it out. So this is fine for the like first version. Okay, so let's go in here and so watch when a switch is turned on. That's switches when and if I search for switch.js, what is when going to give me? When is going to give me the switch object and this action object. And I can say toggle switch name and the switch element. I only care when it's turned on. Oh yeah, and this isn't up to date. So this expects the switch object needs to be like this. So let's, I'll just copy this here and I'll just, I guess, yeah, I don't need an actual example. It's pretty obvious. But yeah, I just want to make it clear that it's an object. Okay, so switch name we don't care about. Switch action we do care about. So that's going to be on. And then we're going to have a callback. Okay. And let's do it like this. And then we get switch object and the action object back. Oh, geez. Okay. Cool. Okay, watch for when a switch is switched on. Check its data attributes to see if the switched on element is a data store. Okay, so the switched on element, so this is the trigger, and this is the one we're interested in. So we're going to say like if switch object elem has attribute data I sync, and let's just, yeah, okay, is it data sync? Sure. Is it a data sync element, I guess. Okay, so if it has this attribute, it is, then transfer the data from the trigger element and all of its children to this newly activated switches children. get the data from the trigger element by looking up all data key values and getting the data in the way it wants to be gotten in the attribute as inner text, etc. Okay. Yep, and we're not doing this part anymore because we're storing everything as data O attributes. So all we need to do here is use our new function. I say that like we have it, but to use our new planned function, which is right here, and we're going to copy it from the trigger element, transfer the data from the trigger element and all of its children to this newly activated switch, to this switch element, to this sync element and its children. From the action element and its children to the sync element and its children. Okay, so then we've got this as a second argument, and we have action object got element as the first argument. And that's it. That is all we should need to do. The only thing I'm concerned about here is keeping the data flat. So this part of the sync is very important. But, you know, hopefully I'll understand that. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, we've written we've written this code. This is all done. We're done. And we don't need to do this anymore. So yeah, very good, right? So now we just gotta write this guy. I think that this is going to live in the outputjs code. But I think for now, we'll just put it here. Okay, and we can copy this in here. For next time, and we're going to import it here from okay, awesome. So now next time we'll write this, or maybe, yeah, that's probably the one we're going to write because we'll need it for this file too. And we can delete this stuff because it's not complicated anymore. Okay. So yeah, I mean, thinking through this ahead of time and making sure we're using data output attributes where appropriate instead of the complicated data input attributes mixed with the data output attributes, it's going to save us a lot of time. It ends up producing this amazing function. Sync output data attribute values, between an element and another element. That is like so cool, right? We should probably call this like source element and like target element. because we're not just going to be able to use this for this. This is actually like the core, like one of the core things about coding that's exciting. And like as you get more experience, you get really, really excited about creating functions like this that are just super powerful that you could see yourself using in other scenarios, or in other libraries. Um, yeah, I and I think, when you really think through something from the ground up, like where I have these like data dash o dash key values, and then like they're unique because the key name actually follows that, and the key name isn't inside of the value. That was like a key architectural decision that was made early on that is really, I think, going to pay off in the long run. Now, of course, it does mean that um, things take a little longer to parse, right? Because if we look in our outputjs library, the parse node, we actually have to loop through every single attribute in order to find the ones that match these. Um, but I don't think it's super expensive. Um, so yeah, and I think what I'm really going for here is like a new way of doing things. As far as like optimizations go, what I would love is if someone just like looked at this library, say like a year from now when it's like improved a bunch, um, and it's just like, wow, this is just a better way of doing things. This is a better way of thinking about this kind of data, and then just like rewrote it from scratch and like simplified the syntax, optimized all the code, and like really like planned everything out so that it made more sense. um, and then like maybe it becomes a really popular library or something. That would be my dream. I you know if people end up using this library as it is, that's fine, but I don't think it's the best thing in the world. It's just really gonna, save me a lot of time. And it really fits with the way that I think, just like this is gonna be so much simpler to use than what I was using on the front end. So I'm really, 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 really actually happy with um, this library. Okay. So yeah, that's all for now. I think this is deprecated. I just put a question mark. Okay, so let's commit this. Um, let's say like started working on input component watcher.js. And just to make sure, yeah, okay. Okay, cool, cool, cool. And if you're getting confused about like what are what do all these repositories do, um, like so we split out these individual libraries a few videos ago, but I still have a few old ones lying around like Parse DOM and data.js. Data.js is right now like the place I refer back to for like my notes, and it also has like a decent amount of the code that still needs to be split out. So like this copy code, the test only exists here inside of this data.js folder, but the actual code lives somewhere else. So eventually I want to delete that. Eventually I want to delete everything in data.js. and have it live somewhere else. But right now it's just kind of this temporary repository that has my notes and has the original code with their original tests, and it has some things that aren't in the new like split out modules. Okay, so yep, that's it for now, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.